The advice and opinions expressed by the host of Autism Live and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice. Any choices you make in determining your child's treatment are completely at their own discretion.
Good morning and welcome to Autism Live. So thrilled to be here with you this morning because, boy, we got a guest for you. Austin James Wolff is going to be joining us in just a few minutes. And he is an amazing young filmmaker and exactly the kind of voice that we need to be elevating and make it possible for more projects to be done by, people like Austin James Wolff. So a little bit later, he's going to be joining us. He's going to talk with us about his new feature film, and we're going to give you an opportunity to be involved in getting this film completed. So don't go anywhere because you're going to love some of the things that he has to say about actually our jargon term for today, which is authentic representation, and about how autism is being portrayed in the media and behind the camera and all of those wonderful things. I think it's going to be a great conversation. I want to start out by saying that we pre-taped this show in April, but it is airing right now in May, and I hope that you guys are watching and commenting, and we will be watching the feed and watching the questions, but this is a great topic. So I also want to say that if you don't know already, we have two YouTube channels, one that is Autism Live and the other one that is Ask Dr. Doreen. And check out all of the videos because you can see picture and sound. It's all free on YouTube. Go to either of those channels, search a topic, and hopefully you'll find over 14 years worth of content there. So that's a pretty amazing library that we're working on. Now, we are also a podcast and available audio only wherever you download your podcast. So that includes all kinds of things. Our fabulous Chris Desmond is showing them to you on the screen right now. Find us on iHeartRadio. Find us on Apple Podcasts, right? And Spotify. We're on all the things, and it is a free download. Now, keep in mind that when you do the free download, you will hear advertising, and that's how we make it free to you. Let's be very, very clear about that. If you don't like the advertisements, if the advertisements are not something that are your jam and you're saying to yourself, hey, I would pay a little bit to be able to have it ad free, we've made that possible for you too. You can go to glow.fm/autism-live. It's $5 a month, but when you subscribe for $5 a month, you get everything we do on the Autism Network. That includes all the Autism Lives, all the Parent to Parent, all the Ask Dr. Doreen, all the Let's Talk movies, all the things. So I hope that you will check that out if you do not love getting the advertising. But we also love the advertising too, because I love being able to give you an opportunity for you to get this content for free. That's an important part of our mission, which is to give you information and inspiration. And that is for our larger autism community that, of course, always starts with individuals who are themselves on the spectrum, whichever words they use to describe what that relationship is. We know that everybody has different words and we respect that. But we also include in that community everyone who loves those individuals, whether you're a parent, a teacher, a lover, right? A child of someone who's on the spectrum. We welcome you here for the support and information and inspiration that hopefully you're seeking. If you don't find what you're looking for here, please let us know. We will do a topic about whatever it is that you're hankering to know. I would love to tell you that in 14 years, we've covered it all. We've reached the end of the spectrum and we've done it all, but it would just be a lie. So tell us if there's something in particular that you want. Having said that, I want to jump right into the jargon of the day because I want to get to our guest because he's fabulous. But this kind of goes hand in hand with the kind of stuff that we're going to be talking about. And I thought for sure that we had done this jargon term before, and huevos rancheros on my face, we have not. We've talked about this endlessly, but we've not addressed this jargon. So today, we're going to take on the jargon of the day, authentic representation. And, often when I'm going to do the jargon of the day, I will go immediately to AI to see what they have to say and if I agree or disagree. And I so appreciated what Google AI had to say that we have a longer jargon because I wanted to include everything. I just felt that it all mattered. So let's take a look at what Google AI says about authentic representation. Because if AI can get this and you can Google it, come on now, everybody can get on board. So Google AI says authentic representation refers to the accurate and genuine portrayal of individuals and groups, particularly those from marginalized communities, ensuring their voices are heard and their experiences are depicted with respect and nuance. It's about moving beyond tokenism and stereotypes to create a more inclusive and equitable landscape where everyone feels seen, heard, and valued. I I loved that, but I have to be honest, they went on to elucidate what they meant about certain things. And I kept clicking and saying, yes, I'd like to know more. And they broke it down into several other areas. So I'd like to continue on the next slide and tell you what Google AI had to say. They said some of the key aspects of authentic representation are first, accurate portrayal. It avoids stereotypes and overgeneralizations, instead focusing on the complexity and individuality of each person or group. Well, I love that. Is there anybody who can say I don't appreciate that? I don't think so. How about respectful depiction? It acknowledges the unique experiences and perspectives of diverse communities, ensuring they are portrayed with dignity and understanding. Whoo, I like that. Is there anybody that's like, no, I don't know. I don't think so in our audience. Let's go on to the next one. The next one is genuine voices. Now we're really talking, right? It gives marginalized groups the opportunity to share their own stories and experiences rather than having them told by outsiders. Yes, yes, please. Right? Then impact on individuals and communities. It fosters a sense of belonging and acceptance, making people feel more connected to the wider world, not the wilder world, the wider world. Yes, yes to that too. On to our last slide here. Importance in various contexts. It's crucial in media, marketing, education, and other areas where marginalized groups are often underrepresented or misrepresented. And lastly, moving beyond visibility, authentic representation goes beyond simply making marginalized groups visible. It's about ensuring they are truly heard, respected, and valued. And I think you're going to see that that's going to fit in very well with our guest this morning, talking about how important it is on every level for there to be inclusion. I know that there are people trying to make that a dirty word. And I honestly just can't get behind that. I'm just going to say that. I just can't get behind that. I think the opposite of inclusion is fear. And for people who don't feel like they can be inclusive, I just want to ask you, what are you afraid of? What are you afraid of? Because all the good things are happening where the inclusion is. Now, I also want to say, so at least somebody's going to say, excuse me, you're a parent hosting a show about autism, talking about authentic representation. Excuse me. And I want to say that I get it. I totally get it. And one of the things that we changed when we, because for a long time we were doing Autism Live and then we became the Autism Network. And one of the things that was super important to us when we created the Autism Network was that there had to be an equal and even opportunity for those on the spectrum to have the mic, right? That it can't just be me and it can't just be other parents. I do think that parents have a right to be represented because it's a unique gig, right? That more and more, as some of my amazing friends on the spectrum are having children, they're going back to me going, okay, I kind of get it a little bit more what you were saying about it's different when you're a parent of somebody, the amount of love that you have for somebody and the amount of fight that you have for somebody. Ooh, it's a thing, right? And it's hard to let go and let them, do their own thing because for a while we have to be their voices and then we have to back off. Ooh, hard. But it's its own community. Being a parent of someone, loving someone who's on the spectrum, I believe that there is a place for that voice. But I also firmly am with all of you that there needs to be voices of those who are authentically on the spectrum. And I hope you have seen in our programming that we really try to honor that. And we try very hard to give the mic over whenever we can. So I'm very excited about our guest today. We're going to take a short break. And then when we come back, we are going to be joined by amazing, amazing filmmaker who we're going to make sure he gets the mic to tell what it is that he's trying to do. And we're going to give you an opportunity to support him in this filmmaking adventure that I think has a benefit for all of us. So stay tuned. We'll be right back after these messages. Welcome back. I'm so excited because for the first time on the show, we have a young filmmaker, Austin James Wolff. Let me tell you a little bit about him. With over a decade, can that possibly be true, of acting and screenwriting experience, Austin took a significant leap by writing, producing, and starring in his new film, which is titled Wally Jackson and the Probability of Love and Car Accidents, which I love this title. Can't wait to talk about that. This is a coming of age film and introduces a nuanced, neurodivergent protagonist, reflecting Austin's own experience and challenging the typical portrayals seen in the media. We're going to talk exactly about that with him. Through Wally Jackson, Austin aims to reshape the cinematic landscape to include diverse and authentic representations of neurodiversity. And we have just discussed authentic representation as our jargon of the day. So hopefully we're going to be able to hear that and hear more about that from Austin. So let's welcome Austin James Wolff to the show for the first time. Austin, so thrilled to have you here.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for having me.
And I have to tell you, I stumbled over the decades, but you must have started as a child actor. Is that true?
Yes,
Okay.
that's correct.
Okay.
One thing, if you'd like me to go into it,
Yeah.
acting has actually helped me um, fit in better as someone with autism. So I can certainly speak more on that because it might be important for people to hear.
I would love to have you talk more about that because it's something that we, oddly enough, talk a lot about on this show about, first of all, that the arts are a wonderful, wonderful playground and professional field for people to go into and to explore themselves and to learn more about themselves. But we've had many guests on the show talking about how being in some sort of a theater class, an acting class, or being in a play was helpful to them. So tell us about your experience.
That is exactly right. When I was a kid, I was so focused on just doing math. That's all I would do for fun is play math and maybe a little bit of video games. But my sister wanted to be an actress, and my parents wanted to support that. They thought that was super fun. We lived in Phoenix, Arizona at the time. And just by being around that, I was sort of also pulled into that world. They just asked me to go along for an audition one day, and they, gave me a script to pick up, and it was a Burger King commercial. They were just like, "All right, pretend you're an announcer." And being a kid, it's super fun to play pretend. And so I played pretend. I read the script, and the agents we were auditioning for wanted to represent me. I don't know why. Maybe I don't know if I was that good doing it on my first try, but regardless, um, being able to play pretend was not only super fun, but it turned out to be super valuable with respect to me learning how to fit in with people that don't have autism. The friends I had made up until that point, they were all on the spectrum and, really great friends, but it was really hard for me to make friends that weren't on the spectrum. And so over the course of a long time, as I was growing up as a kid and then as a teenager, I would go to acting classes, and believe it or not, most scripts have characters that aren't on the spectrum. So,
Wrong.
yeah, I
That's
got
just wrong.
Yeah, I got a lot of practice playing neurotypical characters, and I had acting teachers guide me and say, you have to look people in the eye because this is pretend you're a character that looks someone in the eye. Okay,
Ah,
great. This character needs a hug in this specific moment because they're hurting. So that's how they would like to be comforted. And you have this fictional imaginary relationship where you are a person that gives hugs to your best friend when they're feeling down. And so do that. Shake the person's hand firmly. You're a confident person. Hold your head up high. Through playing all these different characters, I sort of got to have secondhand experience playing a neurotypical person. And so I know that there's maybe some talk about masking and how, some people on the spectrum, they have to mask in order to function in society. And sometimes maybe it would be better if we lived in the world where we didn't have to mask. But regardless, wearing a mask, it's something that's like actor speak. You're putting on the mask to play this character. Eventually, throughout the years of practicing acting, talking to people that weren't on the spectrum became second nature to me. I like to explain it as if it's like a second language, literally, where I'm not a native speaker, but I'm really fluent at it. And most people when they meet me on the street, they don't think that I'm on the spectrum until maybe I start talking about my special interests, and we all have a laugh. But uh, the reason why I think it might be fun for someone on the spectrum to do an acting class or an improv class, or if you're a parent to maybe suggest it to your kid, is um, I like to look at it as, when you're out there in the wild, either at a job or in school, being able to communicate with someone the way that they like to be communicated with just makes everything easier. It adds less friction to the conversation. I found that, when I do the certain things that neurotypicals do in order to communicate, look them in the eye, shake their hand, respond to them in the way that they like to be responded to, everybody has a really easy time communicating. That being said, I really love chit-chatting with my other friends on the spectrum because we kind of don't have to do those normal things. We can just communicate brain to brain exactly what we're thinking, exactly what we want to say. But I will say, when you're talking to certain people, sometimes it's easier to sort of put on the acting mask and communicate in the way that they like to be communicated with. I don't want to go too far on this tangent, but to really hammer the example home, maybe this is offensive to both New York people and Texas people. But when I'm in, I visited Texas before, and people are very, sometimes they're loud and they're very opinionated, and you just have a fun time and you're also equally loud with them. And then people with New York, they talk fast and there's really no filter. And when you communicate that way with them, everyone just has a grand old time. So maybe that's a good way to sort of explain maybe the difference between talking to certain people. But anyway, long story short, acting has really helped me thrive in society, and I'm very grateful that, and I'm very lucky that I found it at such a young age.
I love that, Austin. And what I love about it is that it sounds like, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it sounds like it gives you choices. And that choices are always a good thing. You can choose to not participate in that, or you can choose to participate in it when it suits you. And that sounds empowering to me.
Yeah,
Uh,
it is.
so
Thank
that's
thank
amazing.
you.
Well, that's amazing. But we've invited you here today to talk about your film, and I don't want to leave that off the table, but we have plenty of time. And I want to start by talking about autism representation in the media. I know you've got some things to say about that. So I'm going to let you tell us how you feel about how autism is being represented.
Yeah, thank you. I hate to speak in not a positive light about certain film and television shows, but I think it really just underscores the point I'm trying to make with getting this film made. The first sort of show I wanted to bring up is a very popular show that's very beloved. They've done a great job making it. It's called Atypical. But when I first saw the pilot, the very first episode, it left me feeling with a negative feeling at the end. I had felt as if stereotypes had been played up for laughs. Um, without maybe a sort of understanding from the creator's point of view. And it made me very curious because I seem to be the only person with this opinion. Until I did some research and I found out other people on the spectrum had similar opinions to mine. And I was curious, why is that so? Why is it so beloved by so many other people and not people like myself? Um, it turns out that the creator really wanted to tell this special story of someone on the spectrum. Unfortunately, it also turns out that they didn't quite take any opinions or suggestions in the writer's room from people on the spectrum about the character and the portrayal of the character. I heard that this got improved by the second season. They brought people on to sort of give suggestions, people that are actually on the spectrum, and that's awesome. I'm so happy that they did that. But that sort of put me on this journey of, okay, why is it you can have a character and you want to show this, you want to show accurate representation, but how could you fall so far flat where people like me feel misrepresented? Um, the next time this happened, I was watching a play of this book that I love called The Curious Incident of the Dog in the Nighttime. I love the book. I thought the author did a great job of getting into the head of someone with autism. Maybe other people didn't feel this way. I felt completely represented in the book with the way that the character thinks. I'm like, this is exactly how I think. A to B to C. When I saw the play, I also heard that the actor playing the main character was also on the spectrum. That's wonderful. I'm very happy that that happened. But when I saw the play, I had the same feeling I had watching Atypical. I sort of felt misrepresented, that stereotypes were being played up. And come to find out, the director of this play, this was off Broadway, this was not like an official play, but the director of the play was not on the spectrum. And it really sort of dawned on me that, you can have a character, you can have an actor on the spectrum, like me or someone else, play a character on the spectrum. But if someone in the writer's room or the director's chair isn't on the spectrum, there's still room for error, so to speak. And the director of the play still did a great job. I don't want to bash on them or the creators of Atypical, but it really sort of dawned on me the importance of having autistic creators behind the camera as well. I know we talk about in front of the camera a lot, but I really do feel like having autistic creators behind the camera is important when it comes to having that authentic representation in film and television.
Absolutely. I want to say, disclaimer, that the creator of Atypical, Rabia Rashid, I consider her a friend. She's been on the show.
That's awesome.
And I watched her learn and grow through this process. And I saw her be very open. I was actually there when they did the first screening and they had a bunch of people there. And do you know, oh my gosh, and I just had a senior moment. He's going to be so mad at me. He's a dear friend of mine, and his name just went, like I'm having a hot flash, and it went away. It'll come back to me in a second. That's so terrible. I seriously, I'm having a small stroke. But anyway, dear friend of mine, why can't I can totally picture his face, can't picture his name, but he is pretty much at the forefront of saying exactly what you're saying to people, and works as a consultant in film. And I was standing there with him when he met Rabia, and she said, "Oh my gosh, so what did you think?" Because she knew of him, and he kind of let her know in no certain terms in front of studio executives.
Oh man,
It was a crazy, crazy moment.
I'd be sweating.
Yeah. Alex Plank. Why couldn't I think of Alex's name? Do you know Alex Plank?
I've not met him, but I have heard
Okay.
the name.
Well, he created the website Wrong Planet, and he does a lot of consulting on films.
That's
And
awesome.
bless you, Alex. You know I love you. I don't know why I couldn't think of your name, but sometimes I can't think of my son's name, so it's all age, Alex. But anyway, it was a horrifying but edifying moment, and I saw Rabia take it on the chin and immediately start to plan season 2, how that was not going to be a thing that happened. So I just want to say that in Rabia's defense.
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, if I
Yeah.
may, she was the first one to do this. There
Yes.
were no other shows like Atypical that were fiction like this. So props
Yeah.
to her for being the first one to do that.
And that was important to her. I know. So, but we're all learning. And I have to say, I'm learning, and I love when I have friends like Alex, that Alex is my main person that he will say to me on a regular basis. I will say something and he'll go, "Well, that was ableist." And right. And I have to like hear that and realize that, as much as I want to be an ally, as much as I want to be an accomplice, um, I'm not always going to get it right.
Yeah, me
And that
neither.
if I'm right, well, and if I'm willing to be in that kind of a human situation, then we can all learn and we're progressing. But you're right. We haven't had enough people behind the camera, although we have had one show that really attempted to make it so that it was more, there were more people on screen and behind screen and involved. And of course, they canceled it after one season. And I'm talking of the way we see it. I don't know if you were familiar with that show, but they had people behind the cameras. They had people in the writer room. They had people authentically representing roles. I don't know if you knew that, but
Oh, and they
yeah.
canceled it after one season?
And it was so good that there was episode 10. I kept screaming and saying this needs to be nominated for an Emmy because there was such amazing stuff that I felt happened in season 10. And that's my opinion as a parent,
Yeah.
which is a very different point of view from those who are on the spectrum. But all of my friends who are on the spectrum were fighting so hard to have that show. That there were a lot of things that they were really liking that were happening, and one of them was the fact that there were people behind the scenes and behind the camera and in the writing room, but also all of the roles were being authentically represented, and it wasn't all one level.
Yeah.
There were people who had different kinds of things that they were dealing with, which I really, really appreciated.
Yeah.
But and it had Joe Mantegna in it, big star, but it did not get a second season, and that bummed me out.
That's
So,
tragic.
well, and we're all trying to see, like, okay, so what's the next thing that will have people in front of behind the camera? So you've got an answer for that. Tell us about the film that you want to make.
Yeah, well, I started writing this movie about a character who wanted to find love and find that person that didn't judge his differences, but celebrated them. And I think that's what a lot of us, if not all of us, want. And maybe he uses math to do this because, oh, okay, if I were this character and all I thought about was math, which I used to before I caught the acting bug, how would I solve this as if it were an equation? And it just so happens that I was diagnosed with Asperger's when I was 8, but it wasn't really a part of my life at all, especially through high school. But I got re-diagnosed when I was 19 in the middle of writing this movie, the very first draft, with autism. And at that point, it became more in front of me. I had seen how certain aspects of it limited certain relationships that I had. And once I started to acknowledge it more, that I have this, that I am this, I was able to um, work on some of my weaknesses and play into my strengths. And that's kind of what I wanted to show with this character. Now, the character Wally Jackson, he tries to use math to improve his probability of finding love. Um, we never say the character's on the spectrum because to me that wasn't important, but he certainly is. He's based off of me. The thing that I also wanted to show was the character might be obsessed with math, again based off of me. One might see that as a stereotype. I really tried not to play into stereotypes at all. I just wanted to show a character that was like me and wanted to find love. I wanted to, he's not a superhero. He's not like the Good Doctor, where he's the best at something because he's obsessed with it and it's great. But he's also not Rain Man. He's maybe somewhere in the middle, and autism is commonly known as a spectrum. And I wanted to add one more color to the spectrum. Um, one more avenue of representation. It's not everyone is going to see themselves in this character, and that's okay. That it's a spectrum for a reason. But I did want to add one more character into this vast rainbow of characters that are on the spectrum.
That's amazing. So where are you at in the process of getting this made?
Yeah. So yeah, getting a script made is I found to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. Uh, I had this script. I wanted to play the main character. I wrote it for me because I knew that no one else could play it more authentically than I could. And I would take it to studios, and they would say, "Who's the lead character? Or who's the lead actor?" And I would say, "Me." And they'd say, "We're not going to buy this unless we cast, an A-list star to play this." And I said, "I'm sorry, I come with the script." And so we had a really difficult time, getting funding for it. So after years of rewrites, I said, screw it. We're going to make it ourselves. It's going to be a micro budget indie, and we're just going to make it without any gatekeepers. So I poured my life savings into the movie. I found a director. Her name is Taylor Foster. She wanted to make the movie for free because she believed in the script. She loved the character, and she just wanted to help me get it made. Our crew took pay cuts to get this movie made. People that owned locations let us film there for free to help get the movie made. So many people contributed to this in order to get the movie in the can. And we shot it about a year ago. We got it in the can, and we've been in post production ever since. And we've also run out of money. So we've started a crowdfunding campaign because I think that there might be some people out there that want to also help get this movie made. And so we're going to open it up to them. And, if people want to donate to the movie and help get it made, get their name in the credits too, we're going to actually start this crowdfunding campaign at the end of the month. That way we're able to finish post-production, coloring, sound mixing, music, and get it out into the world.
Amazing. So this is going to air because we're filming this. Total disclosure, you guys, we're filming this in April. So this is going to air in May. And so by that point, you're going to have this out,
That's
right? Where
correct.
they can. So if you're watching this right now, forget what he just said about next month, at the end of the month, because it's now. So, but what platform are you doing it on? And do you know what they should search? Because it will be a long thing, but they can just search. What shall they search and which platform are you doing? Or do you not know that yet?
Yeah, we're crowdfunding on a platform called Indiegogo. And they're a very famous crowdfunding platform. Tons of brands use them. I think Staples just started a crowd. I don't know why Staples needs a crowdfunding campaign, but a
Yeah,
lot.
what is that about?
I know that's crazy. But a lot of movies are funded or have their post-production funds funded on Indiegogo. So they're a very reputable site. But if you want, you can just type in wallyjackson.com and it'll redirect you to the Indiegogo campaign.
Okay. So, and I would imagine that there's no size donation that's too small.
That's correct. If $1 is all you can spare, literally anything helps.
I will say to folks, sometimes when your day seems horrible, when it seems like nothing is going right, one of the things that we've seen in the universe is if you do something nice for somebody else with no expectation of anything back, sometimes it just shifts everything. And you feel better and you can make this happen for this amazing team of people. And every little thing changes the world, right? So if you check your couch cushions, what do you have? What can you donate for this young man to be able to get his film made? And you never know. I always love the story about, you won't remember because it was so many years ago, but there was this wonderful actor, Danny Thomas, singer, Marlo Thomas's father, right? And he took the last $20 that he had and founded what eventually became St. Jude. And, because he said it's important. And he said that the minute that he did that, he donated $20 and sort of founded this thing. Everything changed for him. And as an actor and as a singer, suddenly he found great success. And I always think of that story because his mindset changed. It's not like it's a magic trick, you guys, but his mindset changed, that he was open to the possibility of good things happening, and then good things happened in his life. So do something good for yourself today and donate. And so they just have to put wallyjackson.com in.
That's correct. Yeah, just wallyjackson.com.
Now, imagine with Indiegogo that there are, when you give higher amounts, there are extra perks that you'll have sorted that out by then. That if you give a big amount, as you said, maybe your name plays in the credits. I don't know. Maybe there's something else that people can get. But it's a good thing to do, you guys. It's a worthwhile thing to do. So I'm curious as to once you get this done, once you're 100% and you can release this film, what's the next project?
That's a
I
great
know.
question. Yeah, it's hard to answer that, when I've been in this tunnel of filmmaking darkness for so long, where
Yeah.
the only light at the end of the tunnel is getting this movie into theaters. But as far as the next project goes, I would love to keep writing. I love acting, but I feel like I love creating worlds and creating characters. Going through stories. I guess I'm a storyteller at heart. So, writing another film, having maybe a small part or maybe the lead for me to play in. I'm not sure yet. I have a few different ideas, but yeah, I guess stay tuned and you'll
Okay.
certainly hear about it.
And I want to say too, last summer, my family, we took a trip to Edinburgh. We're theater people, theater and film people, but we're theater people. And the Edinburgh festival, the Fringe Festival, is world renowned, and so we all wanted to go there. And I don't know if you know that that's where a lot of people are going for new ideas. That's where what was the show Reindeer Games? What's the Baby Reindeer was an Edinburgh one man show.
Wow.
And he wrote that himself, he performed it, and then he got to do the thing in Netflix and it won all of the Emmys. And what he said when he won the Emmy is when people tell you that you can't get a film made with an unknown writer, with the writer who is unknown playing the lead role, just remind them. So I'm reminding everybody that that's a lie that we tell, that you can't get something made being there. So just saying, maybe you'll find yourself in Edinburgh doing a one man show. But that because they've discovered other things from there too. That's where Fleabag came from. That was a one woman show. Just saying, they're looking for things in Edinburgh. The producers are there. We saw them. They were there and looking at things to try to figure out who's the next flavor. And you got a flavor to you, Austin. There was a
Hey,
flavor to you. So maybe be thinking about what your next project is. Let me know when you're going to Edinburgh.
I
So
appreciate that. I needed to hear that. That was very
it's
inspirational.
it's so amazing. And they're like every available space in this huge city becomes a theater space.
Wow.
Like in a library, they have like a little corner and it's the storyteller corner.
Yeah.
And then you go into a bar and they've turned a bathroom into a theater space. It was crazy, but take your walking shoes because everything is up and down stairs. We said that Edinburgh must in like ancient whatever language means many stairs, land of many stairs. We still are kidding about that, but anyway, so be thinking about your next project, and we'll want to hear about that and be involved in that.
Thank
So we've got a little bit of time left, and I don't know if you want to elaborate a little bit more on what this new flavor is that you're trying to bring. I also have questions about, you say that math is his thing and that it was your thing before acting. But I've met a lot of people that math is their thing, and it's different with all of them. How does math work for you, and is it the same way it works for Wally?
That's a great question. I think that I was talking with my director about this, and she was describing a scene visually. And I had to admit to her that I don't think in visual terms. I have a hard time visualizing spaces in my mind, which I guess maybe I shouldn't be a screenwriter. But to me, what always mattered more is stories and journeys that a character goes through. And when I thought about it a little more, it sort of dawned on me that a story is kind of like a math equation where you have certain variables, the characters, and they all equal to some big climax or some big emotional revelation that a character or an audience might feel at the end. And I guess to me, it means or it meant that I think in the literal term linearly, but one can also think of in equations. And so for me, I guess I view myself as a linear thinker, and that sort of stuck with me since I was doing math equations at 8 years old. Bringing my little math book to my mom's work when I was there for the day. I used to just solve math equations in my head for fun, to pass the time. When I was 8, I tried learning calculus. That one was a little too tough for me at the time, but I was still curious and I still wanted to learn. Um, this character, Wally Jackson, sort of ties back to me when I was coming out of high school. I wanted to sort of take a break from acting just for a little bit and pursue this thing called actuarial science. And those are the mathematicians for basically insurance companies. And I took the probability exam, and I passed. They have like a 50% pass rate. It's not as intense as what lawyers go through, but it was pretty intense. And through that process, I learned more about probability, and it fascinated me because, the chance that something could happen or it could not happen, it felt like a whole world opened up. It's not just one equation where if you do this, then that. If you add probability into this, it's like a coin flip. Okay, if you do this, you have a certain percent chance that it might happen or it might not. And just that one thought alone blew my mind that there are some things that are unpredictable. I don't want to get into physics. Technically, some things are predictable, some things aren't. But regardless, when it came to actuarial science, learning probability was like the most important thing. And then I decided I didn't want to work for insurance companies the rest of my life. And then I went sort of back into the acting and the screenwriting world, sort of taking the lessons that I had learned with me along the way. Um,
But that lends itself to storytelling. I totally see it. Have you ever seen the film Sliding Doors?
oh, yeah. I loved
Right?
that movie when I first saw it.
I love that. And it's this idea that the probability of if you catch the train, your life does this. If you don't catch the train, your life does this. Although I don't want to give anything away, sometimes things come back around.
Yeah.
Uh,
And no, no, thank you for bringing that up. This character of Wally, I wanted to write him. I had a teacher give me an idea. This wasn't mine, not original, but it was his original idea. He's like, okay, you have this character obsessed with probability, and he's interested in being a car insurance mathematician and actuary. What if he sits around and watches car accidents and, determines their probability, and that's how he like practices being a better actuary? And I'm like, that's genius. So we have this character, like that's part of the comedy
okay.
element is he just sits around watching car accidents and, coming up with the probabilities of this or that. He can come up with the probability that your car is a certain make and model based on your driving history because you might need to know that if you're an actuary and you're coming up with different
Yeah.
insurance models. So that's sort of like his fun little quirk. And then I thought, okay, well, if he wanted to find love, if someone is single and they want to find love, what are steps that they can take to improve their probability of finding this potential mate? And so what the character sort of figures out is, okay, I've done the whole Tinder thing. I've done the whole dating app theorem. It doesn't work. Even if I get the first date, they don't really like me for me, and it doesn't work out. So something has to change, and I think it's me. I think I need to improve myself. And so he comes up with these three math variables: um, passion, tenacity, and confidence. And if he improves these three things, he then improves his probability of finding love. And so what I wanted
Love
to,
it.
yeah, what I wanted to do differently with this film is um, this character. Usually, when you have a rom com or a coming of age movie, they have some wacky plan to get the girl, and then they learn the lesson at the end that they need to learn. And I was like,
Right.
what if they learn that? What if he learns this lesson right off the bat? What if he knows that this is the correct way to do this? Then what happens? If this happens at the start of the movie, what could possibly happen next? And that really excited me because I haven't seen anything else like that.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah, that's sort of how I brought the math, that I used to do as a kid, and then as I did in high school, sort of into this realm of art, and we get to see the equations that Wally thinks as he's going about his life. So probability gets into a car accident. If he's on a date with a girl, probability of making her laugh with this joke, and he says the joke and she doesn't laugh, so the probability goes to zero. He's like, okay, probability of kissing her at the end of the night, and he still has a chance when she like smiles at him. And so yeah, I guess I wanted to show the way that he thought in a in a comedic and entertaining way as well. So actuaries might get furious when they look at this because they're like, that's not how it works. But we're not all
Who cares?
actuaries. Yeah, who cares? We just want to tell a fun story. And so yeah, that's sort of I guess the genesis of the idea and how I bring math from past lives into this new art.
I love it. I mean, I'm sold. I'm not a studio exec, so and and never will be, but I'm sold. You got me. So I think this is a movie that I would absolutely, this is a movie that Netflix would recommend for me
That is the
based on
greatest
my,
compliment you could have given me. That would
right?
be awesome.
Absolutely. And so I absolutely love it. And I'm curious because you talked about you had this amazing crew. There it is. I love the poster too. The poster is beautiful.
Thank you.
Um, I I'm curious, did you walk your talk on your crew? Do you have other people besides you behind cameras working in other capacities, or did you find that difficult?
Yeah, we had a very I'll say I don't want to I don't want a virtue signal, but we had a very diverse crew.
Okay.
In every way you can think of.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I appreciate you saying I don't want a virtue signal, but I think it's important for people to talk about, to set the example and say, no, no, I didn't find it hard. Actually, I found it very easy and our lives were enriched by it, right? Because people
Yes,
need to hear that. People need to hear that
you're
because
right.
you know that there are some people sitting in a room saying, oh, that's just going to add all kinds of, no, no, my friends, it doesn't. What it adds is all kinds of flavor and color and realness to what you're doing. So, but I appreciate what you said. So that's wonderful because we all need to see that and much, much more of that. Well, I just think you're incredible, Austin, and I can't wait to see you get this done. You'll have to let us know when you're premiering it. And when you get it sold to a studio, I assume that once you have it done, you're going to be entering it in festivals.
Oh yes.
So we'll look forward to be inviting to screening something at a festival. And I think you're going to have a bright and brilliant career. And just remember, we had time for you before everybody else had time for you. So in a couple of years, when you're so huge, remember to come back and see us.
I'll
Okay.
never forget, Shannon. Thank you. I really
I
appreciate it.
appreciate it. I appreciate that. Um, and then last, because our jargon of the day, which you didn't get to see that we did, was talking about authentic representation. This is such a big topic right now. And I know that everybody's got a little bit different feel for it. But I just want to hear from you what it means to you.
To me, authentic representation means if you have characters that are a certain way, it might be helpful to have those characters portrayed by someone who actually is that, or maybe written or directed by someone who is that. I will say you can't do this all the time. That's what writing is for. You write a serial killer, you're not going to have authentic representation maybe anywhere unless you have a one-to-one interview with a very famous serial killer. So, that's part of writing where, you do have to use your imagination a little bit. But with that being said, if any film or television show claims to want to be super authentic, I think it is important to have someone in the writer's room or on set directing or in front of the camera that has a piece of the character inside of them.
And I agree with that. I think for me, it's a very it's a complex thing, right? Because I believe in acting.
Yeah.
I believe in the power of acting. But I'll tell you the thing that really made the most impact to me was a few years ago, there was a deaf actor who was fighting for authentic representation. And they showed an audition of an actor who had just learned to sign versus an actor who's been signing their whole life and just showed the difference
Yeah.
and I think here's the thing that's most important is we know when we see something that's authentic.
Yeah.
And authenticity can come in lots of different ways. And I'm a believer in the power of acting. And I don't want to ever pigeonhole and say it can only ever be this because Austin, I would imagine that I don't know if you're currently represented for your acting work, but if you are, I would I would want your agent to be sending you out for playing characters who are neurodivergent, but I would also want them to be sending you out for everything, everything under the sun. And I would fight to the death if somebody said that you couldn't play someone who wasn't on the spectrum. I would say, excuse me, Austin's an actor. Like
Yeah.
Austin can play whatever Austin wants to play. But I do think I very much agree with you that I feel like when I'm sitting and watching someone who is not on the spectrum portraying someone who is, it's a little awkward.
Yeah, sometimes it can be, especially someone with autism. I'm watching it, and sometimes I can see right through it. That being said, I think Timothy Chalamet had a quote about how good you are as an actor, which is very hard to define because it's a very subjective art. But he said something to the lines of, to him it was very impressive when he could see an actor play someone who is completely different from who they are because it's harder. So,
Yes.
for example, it was fairly easy for me to play the character of Wally Jackson because he's the closest character to me that there probably ever will
Yes.
be. So it's very easy. And there are other characters that I've played that are on the spectrum. If auditions or plays, very very minimal, but they were a little bit easier for me as well. And then a character that's like a bad boy gangster motorcycle rider with tattoos on his face. That one's a little trickier for me to play because
Yeah.
I don't ride a
You're not that.
motorcycle, and
Right.
I'm not that much of a bad boy, but it is fun to play those characters. So, yeah, I will say, if you're someone who is neurodivergent, you're on the spectrum, yeah, you should get cast as those characters because you're probably going to play them better. But that being said, vice versa,
Yeah.
you might actually be really good at playing this role with someone that doesn't have autism. I would say that at the end of the day, sometimes it comes down to what the director wants and what he thinks. And just to, I guess, bring it back and bookend this, maybe it is
Yeah.
more important for, there's a growing trend of people on the spectrum behind the camera. And I think that's super important because ultimately, at the
Yes.
end of the day, it's going to be the writer's or the director's vision. So we definitely need more
Yes.
people on the spectrum back there
Yes,
on the
we
camera.
need them in all roles. I absolutely agree with you. Well, Austin, you're just delightful. This
Oh,
has been so much fun, and I'm looking forward to all the success of your future and keep us posted. Again, we want to remind people the ask here is if you have any money, $1.25 that you would like to donate, because listen, the truth is if you all donated $1.25, then Austin could go get his movie finished, right? So we just need you to participate, but where you want to go is wallyjackson.com. Go to wallyjackson.com and give a donation of any size. And I guarantee you'll feel better the rest of the day. It's like buying a lottery ticket. You'll just feel better the rest of the day knowing that you've put something good out into the universe. And I believe it comes back to you times two. So do that and help Austin out, and we'll look forward to, and we'll keep you guys posted when he's got it all done and he's showing it someplace. We'll make sure that you guys know about it. Deal? Okay. Well, Austin, any parting words?
no, thank you so much for having me, Shannon. I really appreciate it.
It's been a delight, an absolute delight. All right. And now that I know that you don't live so far away, yeah, we'll have to get you together with a bunch of people. I don't know who you know and who you don't know, but I know people that you get along with great because they're all
Awesome.
making things, have the same opinions and making movies. So we'll get you all together. All right. Thank you so much for being with us, Austin. I want to remind everybody, check our calendar to see what's coming up next. We'll be back tomorrow. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye bye for now. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Thank you so much. See you next time.